and it is recording. So have you all taken your Cricut out of the box?
Yes, I did take it out of the box. I just don't have it set up.
Right. Okay. Cheryl, you want to begin?
I don't know that I'm the best one to begin.
No, Cheryl, necessary.
Oh, Cheryl, okay.
Oh, me?
No, Cheryl.
Okay,
Oh.
that's what I thought you said.
Oh, okay, yeah, and I responded and said, I don't know if I'm the best one, but so you've all taken it out of the box. You've all probably looked at some of the stuff that came along with it. I think that if you haven't looked at this that says
Yeah.
open me first, anybody not look in here first? Okay,
I
good.
don't have a Cricut. I'm just want to see what you're doing with it to
Yeah,
and see if I'm
right. That's what
inspired
I
to
was
get
going
one.
to ask.
Same
Who
here.
does not have
Okay.
a Cricut and just,
Okay,
just
so
getting
if you have a
information?
Cricut,
I don't have one
is there
either. I'm
anyone
still
who
Okay.
has not opened this
figuring
file?
out.
And I think it's good to sit in on a meeting like this
Yeah.
because you can kind
Oh,
of
yeah.
get a feel for what's going on. So this one, it's so basic that there's really no excuse for anybody to not have done this. So it says, unleash this beauty. Okay, we can do that. Get connected. And so it says, go to the website, and then it'll help you get through the setup. And then the next thing you'll be doing is making something. So it may not be that easy, but that's a good place to start. I mean, it's a good attitude to have. So you also got this booklet, and this one actually has some helpful stuff that will help you get started. So I guess rather than reading the book, does anybody have any questions about getting started?
I kind of do because I don't have one yet.
Okay, well, that's good.
But my impression was that it was designed to be used more for scrapbooking and card making and that sort of thing. Does
That's
it really
my
have?
impression too. But when has that ever stopped a miniaturist?
You have a
So
point.
I'm curious as to what applications in miniature that can be done with it.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
why
go
I'm-
through that. Yes.
Okay. How about around how much does it cost?
The machine itself is about $400. Sometimes they have a special sale and they'll knock $50, or for mine, they knocked $100 off of it. And although I already had the Silhouette Cameo 4, I went for it because the two machines are not the same. And so for this meeting, that's all I'm going to say, but one is not better than the other. They are just not the same.
They do different things.
Yep.
On the group, MCC Groups.io, there's a file and it's Cricut something or other. And there's, I think, 3 files on there. And one is comparing the Cameo and the Maker. And I can't remember right now what the others are, but anyway.
So those are you have the comparison of the Cricut Maker and the Silhouette Cameo 4. You have the list of the links for the book and for Cricut books. And you also, the third one was YouTube links
It's just
and websites, useful websites. That was the third one.
And this is the book they're talking about.
While you guys are talking, I'll go get some example projects.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is Cheryl's book, but anyway.
That book gives you step-by-step instructions on the Cricut Maker It is written by Lisa from Spellbound Miniatures. She does Cricut. She does the Cricut Maker, and she sells and makes SVGs, which are the files that you use to cut things out on your Maker. And she specifically makes things for miniatures. She has done both the Gothic medieval type, more medieval than Gothic, but medieval, and some regular vintage furniture as well. She also has plates that she figured out how to do on the Maker and a 3D printer, but she did it as a SVG file as well, so you can cut it on the Maker. There are a lot of different people that are starting to get the Maker or a cutting machine like the Maker, and they're starting to do YouTubes, and they are starting to do free websites where they share their designs of miniatures. So more and more people are actually starting to figure out ways of using the cutting machines for miniatures. Some of the things that I have is, this was a Gothic stepping bed stool for made and designed by Heather Tracy, and it is chipboard. It is 5 layers, or no, I'm sorry, it is 3 layers of chipboard, and it is super glued, and then I sanded it and then painted it. And then this is a design by Spellbound Miniatures, her medieval bed. And this is 3 layers of craft board. And you can, she had 3 different ways that she showed you different ways you could put it together. I have not glued the mattress on yet, so it's a little wobbly, but it is supported by those. So, and you can also make, as long as they are somewhat simple, you can make your own miniatures off of the Maker. As I made the bookshelf in the back, was designed and made on the Cricut, and it just fell over. All right.
There you go. Now we can see.
There.
So
Oh, that's great, Julia.
I actually created and did that on the design space. A lot of people say that you can't do real complicated things on design space, but something like this was just rectangles, and I cut out the shape on it on a bigger rectangle and put it all together. And it's 3 to 5 layers of craft board. And whoops. And then that's the back.
Very good. And to continue with Julia's comment about being able to design in Design Space is the drawing app that comes with the Cricut Maker. And the idea is that it gives you shapes, circles, triangles, squares, with some ability to modify them. And the beauty of it is that the Design Space software lets you make it bigger or smaller without degrading the quality. So, for instance, you can design something for a 1-inch scale, but then somebody doesn't do 1 inch anymore, and you can size it down and it'll be perfect. So that really helps in our line of work here. And I like to say, I think we're all about the right age, maybe Julia's not, for the game called Color Forms, which was a kit or a box of vinyl shapes, the squares and circles that I was talking about. And you can arrange those on a glossy black piece of cardboard and make designs. That's really what Design Space allows you to do. And you probably had a best friend who was really, really good at it, and you admired them. Well, there are some of those people, but anybody can manipulate squares and circles.
Okay.
So
Okay, let's go to what's in the box.
All right, so with the Cricut Maker, in your box, you get the machine, you get a rotary blade, you
Which is good
get,
for fabrics and
yes,
lightweight.
that is for the fabrics. You get a fine point pen, black. There is a spot on your Cricut Maker that you can slip that in and draw things. You get 2 mats with it. This is the light grip. The light grip for Cricut is always blue, and it is slightly sticky to hold the lighter stuff like copy paper and some card stocks, things that you don't want to stick real hard down, but you want it to stay enough to so it doesn't come up when you're cutting it. And then this is the fabric grip for when you want to cut fabrics and such. You get the welcome book that Cheryl showed. You get a USB cable that you can either use to connect it to your, you can use it to connect to your laptop so that, or your computer, to have a hard connection instead of using your Bluetooth. You have the power adapter. You get a trial membership to the Cricut Access, which is basically using their fonts, using their designs and such. They are not yours, you are just borrowing them from them. It's a Cricut Access. You do not have to pay for to use the program, but you do, the subscription is to use their stuff without paying for each thing. You have 50 free ready to make projects and materials for a practice project. And that's what comes with just the machine, not if you buy any of the bundles or anything, just for the machine in the box for the Cricut Maker.
Julia, does it also use Wi-Fi or does it have to be Bluetooth?
Wi-Fi is usually for like your internet. Bluetooth is usually to connect 2 different
Devices.
Thank you. 2 devices together. So usually Bluetooth is what would be needed to connect the 2 devices. Wi-Fi is usually what uses internet and doesn't usually connect the devices.
And I would suggest that if you're new to using Bluetooth, then use the cable and hard connect it. Use this USB cable, because it just eliminates one possible failure. And so you'll be less frustrated if you connect it, you can see that it's connected, and the machines will talk to each other. Whereas with Bluetooth, the weather can change and then you don't have a good connection, or maybe the distance between the two devices. So it's just something else to fiddle with. So for the first month, use the cable.
I have a
First
basic
month of
question.
use.
I have a basic question. How does it do the cutting? Is it a laser
No,
cutter? Or-
it's a
This
blade.
is the fine point blade. It is actually a blade inside of it. And what the Cricut does is it has a holding device for it, and it will trace out the design that you put on Cricut Design Space, and you say make it, and it will cut out or draw whatever you have set it to do. It moves the map that I was showing you. It will have this, and it will move it up and down through the machine, and it will cut out, and you'll see it going back and forth as it cuts and moves this around, doing the cutting and on what the design is that you want it to come out as. So I can actually pick up my machine. I have it here. So those who do not actually have one can see it. Whoops.
And the
I-
blade goes up and down, right?
Yes, it moves.
And
Unplugging it because it's not. All right. So this is the Cricut. And well, one part's already open, but there is where the blade goes. So you have the blade. Let's see if I can balance this and show.
You need another
Yeah, this
pair.
is going to be interesting, but I'm
No,
trying my
don't.
best.
Don't
I
drop
might
it.
be able to
Now,
use
see this part here? That's where it will go. I cannot balance it and put it up, sorry. There. So now it's in place. The white piece beside it here is where you can put a pin or a scoring stylus, which is what this is. So that scores the lines in, so that if you are wanting to make a box, it will score the lines so you can fold up the lines easier. It will cut out parts and score the others.
So how long do those blades stay sharp?
pretty long time.
Yeah, it's pretty long. It depends on how often you use it, what materials you use it on. Things like the knife blade for wood. I think somewhere it was like 6 or 8 projects. It dulls the blades just like if you're cutting wood by hand with a craft knife. But it does dull it after a while, but you get a lot of work out of them. They can do a lot before they run out of the cutting ability.
Here's an example of a cut project. I got this file from a designer named Rita at Dilly Dally Dollhouse. You'll see that on some of these lists. And so she designs her projects to be cut in wood, and it's 2 layers. You use 2 layers to make up the thickness. And so what I did was I arranged all the pieces and then put it on the cutting mat, the purple cutting mat, and I taped down the edges when you use wood, because wood is stronger than the mat. So tape it down. And then a knife blade, well, not the blade that Julia showed you, but one called the knife blade, which is a little bigger and stronger, will trace around all the design pieces and cut it out. Now, the thicker and firmer the material, the more times the knife blade has to trace around it. And so this particular item took, the machine chooses the settings, and they usually tell you more settings or more times around than you really need. So this was maybe 12 times, 12 passes. So it's like you're drawing 12 times around each one of these, which is a lot better than doing it with your X-Acto knife.
What's
So
the
how
thing
how
of
long did
that?
it take? Sorry.
How long
How
did
long-
it take? About 15 minutes. It depends on how many little ins and outs and corners and things. If it was all circles, it would be like a couple minutes. But this is like a medium complexity, and 15 minutes.
So it looks like the legs on those chairs are pretty small, I mean narrow. So it
Yeah.
doesn't seem to have any problems doing the narrower.
No, that's the magic of it. That's why I bought the Cricut, even though I already had the Silhouette. The Silhouette's great for designing, and the Cricut is great for cutting wood.
What's the thickness of that wood you used?
Oh, the wood is a 1/16 of an inch. And it'll cut a little bit heavier wood. I think it goes, Julia, is it 3/32?
Yeah,
So a little
possibly.
bit.
Yeah,
over a
I-
16.
I think so, but that I have not had any luck going thicker than 1/16. But
And I
I-
haven't tried. I'm
Yeah.
I'm perfectly happy with this.
this is the knife blade that is what you use to cut the wood with. And you can see how it spins. It has the thing up at the top. That is what the Cricut uses to spin it. Has a gear up on top, and it spins that around as it's cutting and doing things.
And the gear is what enables it to cut the heavier materials. And another heavy material is the chipboard that Julia mentioned. And you can get different weights. This one is about the same weight as the 16th inch basswood. And so this also glues nicely. It paints nicely. It's by Cricut.
I believe that uses the knife blade as well. So,
Yes.
and
And where do you get the wood from?
The wood you can get from Hobby Lobby, maybe your own hobby shop. You can get it online. Just when you do it online, make sure that it says basswood and it doesn't say plywood. I did a search and it started giving me all this stuff for plywood, and that's too heavy.
Cricut also does sell 11 by 11 sheets and smaller sheets of wood of the 1/16. Almost any and all of the materials that can be cut by the Cricut machines, Cricut sells at least one type of it. So
And Spellbound.
Wanda,
This
Ninja-
is
what
the
do you
wood
have?
from Cricut, if anybody wants to see it.
Yeah,
Oh,
that
that's the
one is
veneer.
very thin. It's a veneer. And so if you want to cut layers of chipboard and then face it with the veneer, it
Mhm.
comes out beautifully.
Mhm. One thing that I have seen on a couple of people doing, there is a clear plastic part over the gear. That is not supposed to be removed. That helps it stay in place, and that is actually what part of it. It is not something to be broken off or removed.
Yeah, it's not packaging.
It's not packaging.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a good point.
that actually what it does is that is what helps it hold against the Cricut machine and keeps that part where it's needed while the gear is moved. I had to point that out because I have been seeing that for a while, and I wanted to mention that.
I think
Because
that's
there's 3 different blades that have that on there. The rotary for the fabric, your knife blade, and then this is a quick swap. And it is what it says. You can swap out the bottom. And it has different blades that you can use. The one that is on here now is debossing, so that you can put a pattern onto, see if it'll show up,
pretty.
onto a piece of craft board or cardboard or something. And those lines were done by the Cricut machine and just done with the debossing tool, so that I didn't have to try and put those lines in.
And just so that you know, we refer to this craft board, which is, it's a really nice feeling material, but it's like cardstock, but it's maybe like 2 layers of cardstock together, so twice as thick. And it comes in white, black, and tan. And you buy the package and you get the 3 colors, but it's kind of handy. Here's some examples of some cuts that were made. And so they're very smooth. Another material that I really like is called Stencil Card or Stencil Board. And you can see it's a little bit mottled, but back in the old days when you used to stencil your name on your lunch pail, you would buy stencils and then take your paint and paint over it, and then the letters would show. Well, this cuts really, really well. And it's a little stronger than the craft board. So that's kind of nice. You might have to get that on the internet. I got it at our art supply store.
Okay, any questions so far about taking it out of the box and what is in the box and kind of how it's used?
Just be sure to go to that website and just take your time, read every word on the Cricut.com website, get yourself an account, log in, and do what they say.
And you do not have to actually have the Cricut maker or the machine to actually create an account. If you want to go in and play with Cricut Design Space and watch their videos and sort of play and see what you can do with it, you can sit and play with it. You just can't make anything without the cutting machine, of course, but you can at least play with it and see what you can do with it.
You know, another thing that takes a little bit of wrapping your head around is that once you've completed a project, you can't download your file for that project. It remains only accessible through Cricut Design Space.
Hmm.
You can share your projects by using a site that they offer and then give the person you're sharing with that location, and then they can get it out. We've done that with our club where we'll put something on Cricut Design Space and then everybody can go get it if they have a Cricut account. We did that when we made these little tables. Or did we? We did it. Well, I don't
Oops.
know. If we didn't, we could.
Okay, Cheryl, where'd you go? There you are.
I'm here.
Okay, now show that again.
Okay. We made a project that was like 2 evenings of work, and one was to make the table itself, and you can see the legs are flat, so they're kind of basic, but it's kind of cute. And then the next meeting, we made marble tops. So that was kind of fun, and it's something that we can then use those techniques and then do our own designing and other projects. But the legs were cut on the Cricut.
And
This-
several layers depending on what
Yeah.
we had in stock.
Is 2 layers of craft board, no, 2 layers of chipboard, or you could use 4 layers of craft board. And because the machine is so accurate in cutting these, layering them really is no problem at all. And then in Spellbound Miniatures, she came up with this idea of putting crazy glue or super glue on the seams and letting that dry, which is instantaneously, and then sand it. And this is so strong. See, I'm not even afraid to drop it. But it's kind of a new approach in making miniatures. It takes out the step of using the X-Acto knife to cut things out.
And more accurate.
Yes. And if you want to cut out a gajillion of them, it's really easy. This is another of Dilly Dally Dollhouse's designs. And I think it's so cute. But cutting all these little boxes, no problem. And this is all made out of chipboard. So it's strong, it's cute, and everybody needs storage.
It probably does create dust like the laser cutters, or does it? Or the
You
the
could do
soot,
this on a laser cutter. If you
right?
happen
But
to
that
have
that creates soot.
Oh,
The black soot.
a laser,
Right,
yes,
yes.
a laser cutter, you need to have it vented, you need a larger space. So if you can do that, great. One of
But the
our club
Cricut, you don't-
members just got the Glowforge, and she can do that because they have a shop. Her husband makes projects using that equipment, so it made sense for them. For me, I'd like to downsize eventually, and buying a big machine, nah, that didn't work.
But it doesn't make the soot. Is my question.
Right.
No,
And,
it does not make soot.
and it
Okay.
hardly makes sawdust. Really, the sawdust
Yeah.
is, if you're using wood or even the chipboard, it's when you sand it smooth afterward. That's really the only mess.
Okay. Wow.
Some of the dust from the wood will stick onto the mat. So after a bit, you do have to clean off your mats.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
tell them more about the mats.
Okay, you actually have different types of mats. It only came with the 2. Oops. But you have the light grip, which is the blue. You have the standard grip, which is the green. This is for
Vinyls.
vinyl and for the heavier cardstock. Do not put 65-pound cardstock on a brand new green mat. You will not get it off in one piece. Just saying. The purple mat is your strong grip. This is for chipboard, wood. I haven't really had to use it for the craft board, but your heavier materials, and those heavier materials, you have to use masking tape or something to just put it down to secure it more so that while it's cutting, it doesn't come up. If
Also, you need to move the things out like you told me, because if it will put the grooves on your wood. Remember when I first cut with mine?
yes,
The little rollers, they
All
will
right.
groove it, your wood
For-
really bad.
for those that don't know what she's talking about, is see
The
these?
little white rollers.
These are these little things here move. So when you're doing something like wood, you have to move them all the way over so that they do not crease your wood or
Yeah.
mess up what you were working on, because
Yeah.
the mat is going in and out. It will go where it's just hanging out almost all the way out, and then it'll go all the way back and come back in before it actually starts cutting or doing anything. So you have to make certain there's a 11 to 12 inch clearance to the front and the back of your machine, because it will feed the mat all the way through. Another thing is when you're loading the mat into the machine, you want to put not a whole lot of pressure, but you don't want just the rollers bringing in the mat. You want to put a small amount of pressure on the mat when you hit the button to load the mat into the machine. That way it will immediately catch and bring it in, and it will start at the appropriate place. If you let the machine bring it completely in, it will sometimes miss the paper by the edge, by a little bit, or whatever you're cutting, it will not reach that top edge. Another thing that I was wanting to show on the machine is this is where on one end is where your connection is. That is where you can put the USB to connect it to your computer, or if you are using Bluetooth, you can charge your phone.
Hadn't thought of that.
Yes, I was very amused by that part. And then there is where the mat comes out, and there are your power cable to plug it in. And it can, there is also a secret tray that some people do not notice on this part here. Well, I am not showing, sorry, I have blades in it, but it has a little compartment down there that you can keep your blades, and
I might be able to show mine.
yeah, there you go.
Can you see it? I can't see both at the same time. But one reason why I wanted to show that is
There you go.
that, see the two blades nestled here? It looks like this is too shallow for the knife blade, but it actually fits if you kind of park it head in. So I can put it head in, and then the top closes very nicely. And then you also have this outside cup to hold other gadgets. It's a pretty well-designed machine.
Okay, the mats and their stickiness.
It's
They
like
are
con-
sticky. They
Yes.
also like cat hair, dog hair, dust.
Mhm. So you do when they get dirty, when they get too, let's see, do I have one of my dirty mats? If it gets too dirty and will no longer stick anything, this is the plastic covering that comes with it.
to keep the dog hair and cat hair off.
Yes, just do not put them on the floor because you will go sliding. This is one of my green mats that my lovely dog decided to sit on right after I cleaned it.
Oh.
So as you can tell, it kidnaps a lot of hair. So to clean it, I was told there's a couple of different methods. I was told Dawn soap with a soft sponge and water. Do gentle circular motions. It takes a bit, but after a while, it will get everything cleaned off. And once it dries, the stickiness usually comes back. I have found that the Cricut mats, the stickiness comes back the best. There are other off brands that are cheaper, but the stickiness does not last as long or as through many washes. So you do, or you can use like a microfiber cloth to gently rub the water and the Dawn soap on it. You can use baby wipes instead of soap. You can, for a quicker method, you can use the baby wipes because they dry quicker. When you wash it with the soap and water, it does take an hour or two, depending on if you're able to hang it up where it can drip dry, or if it's just sitting somewhere, it takes a little longer. The light grip, the blue mat, is the less sticky. And as you go up, they like to attract more and more and more depending on their stickiness. The plastic covers do help as long as you remember to put them on immediately after you use them, as stuff can get on them pretty quick. The fabric mat will, when you cut fabric, the threads of the fabric will stick on it.
Mhm.
So you will have, I have used felt, and the felt outline, I would have an outline of what I had cut on it because all of the felt fibers would stick to it.
Mhm.
So those get dirty really quickly.
Here's something that I found works really well. I had surgery last summer, and they gave me 2 of these little kits that have these sponges in it, along with some antibacterial soap. And it has just really fine bristles on it. And it worked great to clean off my mat. It just kind of picks up better than a cloth would. So everything that Julia said, along with this, if you happen to be having surgery, this is a perk.
Have either one of you tried that repositional glue and put that on to strengthen the?
No, but I can see how that would work.
I have some. I have not had the opportunity to use it.
Okay. I
Because
think
most
people
of the
talked
time
about that somewhere
Yes.
along the line.
I was told about the pixie spray. I actually have it right here. It is still sealed because you have to clean the mat that you need to restick first. And most of the time, if I'm cleaning a mat, I'm going to be using it shortly. So I have not had the opportunity to try it, but I have been told by people who have used it, who have done that route a couple of times, that this works very well. So
Well,
that
one other
has
thing
been,
that happens to your mat, like I mentioned when cutting wood, they'll tell you, okay, it's going to do 20 passes, but in 12 passes it's done. If you let it go 20 passes, you have cut up your mat. So you do have to kind of watch it when it gets to halfway, check it, and then continue on if it needs it. So you might cut your mat before it runs out of stickiness.
and if you are doing something that multiple times, the same type or the same one, switch which way you are putting your mat in, because you will keep going down that line and you will cut it. Even if you're not cutting wood, it will go all the way through. The mat, the 12 by 12 mat, it does not matter where you position your wood. If you have a 1111, you can put it up here so that this is the 1111 and this is the side you put in. Or you can switch it and it's this side that you put in and it's here. So if you are, and you can change what size of board you have. So if you only have I think they have a 6 by 11 piece of wood, that option is on there and you can show it where to cut it out. So if you put the 6 by 11 wood here, you can position all of your pieces to cut out here, or you can do it on this side, whichever way. It makes it a little bit more versatile.
And a lot of the wood that you get online is either 8 inches, 6 inches wide or 8 inches wide. Sometimes it's 4 inches wide. And so like Julia says, you can vary where you put it. And just so you can see, this is a fairly old mat. Yet I can
Still.
position my wood on there. I wouldn't run it through like that because, well, I would tape all the edges and then that assures that it'll stay in place. But that's the stickiness of your mat. Stick that down so you can see.
A way to test the stickiness that I was shown was you take your mat, put your hand on it, and hold it, and it should stay. If it falls like immediately after you do this, you need to clean your mat or you need to get a new mat, especially if it's a purple or a green. This one's actually still pretty good in stickiness. Part of my hand is coming up, but it's actually holding on really well. And the part that came up is the part covered in dog hair. So it does last quite a bit. And you can do quite a lot with it. This is something, these are actually individual squares. There's an individual square, just so, and
Craft board.
that is out of craft board. It's white and black craft board. I did individual squares and placed them on another piece of craft board. But that can be cut to be used as a kitchen floor, or as if it's tiling or a wall or something. So I didn't have to cut all of those little squares all by hand.
And they fit together perfectly.
Yes.
Right.
The Cricut did it within, I think that only took less than 5 minutes. and then I switched out the mat and then did the other one. So it's really quick and easy how it can do it.
Another thing that could be tedious is one of our club members wanted shingles. And so I didn't design this. I guess shingles really go this way. But I remember Diane made this, and I just happened to have it today. But this is about half scale shingle, and you can just increase the size, resize it, and make inch scale, or you could make it down to quarter scale. So that's the versatility of this machine. And then you can just cut multiple strips. You can copy this and paste, 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 and just cover your whole thing with shingles.
You probably could do a fancy parquet floor too, couldn't you?
You could certainly do that.
Yeah, yeah. that would
I
be neat.
believe
Here would work really nicely with the parquet.
I believe Spellbound Miniatures has a 4 or 6 set of floorings and styles that she has done like this one. This was
And-
one of her designs.
Julia, hers, she debosses them, so
Yes.
she makes it look like a parquet floor, but it's just like dented. It isn't separate pieces on one of her designs.
That's what this is where it's just indented into it. On one of her other things, I did walls for the medieval thing, which since it's together is a little difficult to show, but I debossed the wall and then cut out a set to make it stand out even more, and just put it on top of the debossed area. Actually, you might be able to see more of it. There we go.
Oh,
So you can actually, if it's not popping enough, you can actually cut out the pieces and then put it on top to show it more, if you want to go that extra step.
One thing that I would say is for any of these processes, talk to somebody before you do it, and then as you're doing it, if you run into any trouble, because it's really sad to get frustrated and not move forward when somebody probably has gone through that before and can answer your question.
One thing I found, and something I did with my bookshelf, is before I cut it out of the craft board, I cut it out of paper, because paper is easier to get a hold of. It's easy to do stuff with. So this was actually my second or third attempt of doing it before I finally figured out how to make it work. So I cut it out of normal paper first and put it together to see if it would work before I did it out of the craft board, which is a little bit more expensive than paper is. So that's another way of being able to do it. Or you can set your machine to draw instead of cut, and it will draw the piece of what you are wanting to do. Well, this is what I grabbed, but it will actually draw the design so that you can see what it's going to look like. So if you are wanting to cut out the floor or something, you can have it draw it first or something, so you can see it before you actually take that step to cut the material in. To cut it out.
Also, if you wanted to make that as a silhouette, but it's a little too big for your box, you can smush it on the Cricut and make it a little narrower, or you can make it wider.
Yes, in Design Space, you can change the sizes of various things. This is a rolled flower that it actually came bigger, but I was not cutting out a rose the size of a whole sheet. So I squished it down to where it's much smaller, and there it is. And this is a rolled flower
Gosh.
Cute.
from one of those. I could probably have gotten it smaller, but this was me being bored one day and playing around. I was poking and prodding at it, as I would say, that to see what I could do with it. So this is not quite the same design, but this one started like this.
Okay, shall we plug everything in?
Well, mine is plugged in. So I can just press start. They are kind of noisy. Okay, so now it says, all right, I'm ready. And then at this point, you go to your Design Space software on your computer, and you find the design that you want and you press make it. And then it arranges it on your material, whatever it might be, on your mat. And you do have the ability to drag it around to different places. Like Julia said, maybe you have a smaller piece of paper, a smaller piece of material that you're working with. And so you can make sure that your pieces will be on it instead of off the edges.
You said it cuts fabric. Can you cut things like doll clothes pattern?
Yes.
Doll clothes patterns from it. That sort of
Yeah,
thing.
I would say
You
the
could,
level
right?
of, I've never tried it, but the level of detail is probably like my little chair that I showed you.
Mhm.
I don't see why it couldn't. I mean, you would have to figure out how to get the design into the as an SVG, which is the
File name.
file names, the file type that the cutting machines use. But once you are able to put it into an SVG file, you can then upload it to Cricut Design Space, and it should be able to cut it out. And you would use for fabric the pink fabric mat in order to cut that.
And there's a trace
There's
function.
conversion programs to to put a project into an SVG. There's conversion programs.
Yes, you can, if you Google, say, convert a JPEG to an SVG, there's several free sites that you can use, or there are paid as well, to convert them to the different files and file types that you need.
But you can also upload files of other formats, and then Cricut it'll lead you through these steps that you can use. I had, excuse me, I had written a tutorial for American Miniaturist to make a potted plant. And so I found a leaf that I liked on the internet, and then I was able to load that in to Cricut, and then the Cricut cut out the outline for me.
Mhm.
Okay, so the Cricut into the computer. Show them how to to plug those in. I can't think what the words I want, but anyway, connect the Cricut to the computer.
So you have your cable and you put your
That
USB
end right there. Yep.
into the side of your Cricut maker, like Julia had shown us. Okay, see that? It goes in there. There's a slot. And then the other end. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. Disregard that. It's the other way. So this goes into the back of the Cricut maker.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you're plugging that into the back, the square peg in the square hole. And then the other is the USB. And so I can't show you on my computer because I'm using my
Right.
computer. And besides, my computer needs a little converter thing. But anyway, that goes into your port where you plug in anything like your CD drive or DVD drive or different things.
Julia,
So
you have
it's just
anything
a
to add to
simple
that?
cable.
Do you have anything to add to that, Julia?
No?
Any questions?
There's a couple
Well,
up in the chat.
The only time it's important to have this cable connected is when you send it, when you press make it, and then your screen will tell you if it's talking. And if it's not talking, then check those connections, make sure they're firmly seated in there. So, and that's why I tell you to go ahead and use the USB cable rather than the Bluetooth. But then once you're feeling pretty smart about this whole thing, try Bluetooth because you don't have as many of these cables laying around.
Yeah. Do either one of you have Design Space, something on it that you could show them?
I do.
Do
I
you
can-
choose-
I have it up, and if need be, I can even show how to get to a website and how to download something.
Okay.
Wow,
Cheryl,
okay.
do you have anything? Or
I think if Julia's ready, then go for it. Because yeah, I have stuff, but I don't have it.
okay, you
pulled
can.
yet.
Okay, get it.
All right.
Okay, Julia.
Yeah. Okay, so see if it will let me share screen. There we go. All right, so this is your Cricut design space. This is the canvas. I already have some files in here, so you can go here, go to the view, and when you upload a file, you can get different labels on it. And you can label, I put miniature in all of mine that has something to do with miniatures. So this here is all of the different files that can be done for miniatures. So I will do, I can pull up the bedside table and it inserts the image. This is one of Spellbound Miniatures. Down here at the bottom of the screen, you can zoom out so you can see more of it. She does a very nice little green square, and that is where you can tell what scale it is. This is scaled right now for 1 inch, but if we go in the little gray square or little green square is exactly the 1 inch thing. But if you want it smaller, oops, wrong one. There are a lot of little arrows and such. You can, it likes being finicky. Come down here to the bottom of it, and you can make this smaller. And your square is now smaller than the 1 inch. And she actually has a video where she shows how you can scale this. So in case you want to do 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch, you can change the size of this square, and all of these will stay proportionate because they are all grouped together. And then you can decide which scale you want to do it in and what size you want it in. I tend to work in 1 inch, but she has shown and done a lot of her stuff in the different sizes just to show that it can be done, as my machine is being finicky.
Is that Heather's or Lisa's?
This is Lisa's.
And Lisa has been playing around with Barbie scale lately too.
Yes, she has. So it gets interesting seeing the different scales from her. But you can change what scale it is in by playing around with that little green, the size of that little green square. And that will help you decide, if I know some people do 1/4 inch, and that is what allows you to change the size on it.
Julia, with that screen, one of the things that I kind of bumbled into, but early on, was the column on the right-hand side, and it is a listing of every single thing that the machine is going to do. So what I see is the medieval bedside table, and it says the H is going to be a basic cut, and then the S is a basic cut. And so and that's just showing you I guess that's her labeling.
Yes, she labels it.
And then slide
there you go.
the slider down, and you can see her shapes. And so there's the shapes that actually make up the little piece of furniture. And so actually you don't want those black letters to cut, but the way that Cricut organizes things, there's going to be everything in black is going to be on a separate mat, and you don't even have to cut those. You're just going to cut the red ones.
If you want the machine to label it with a pen, if it's something a little more detailed and you want the labels, you can change this, which is this one down here. You can come up here and change it to, you can change it to pen. And instead of cutting it, it now says pen, and it will draw those letters on that. But as she was saying, it will have them in separate. To change that, you attach it, and then it will draw that on the exact one that you have. So to do that, you select the whole thing. Lisa groups her things, so you have to ungroup it and highlight just that one. And of course, now it's going to not let me do it. because I'm trying to show that you can do it. And of course, now it's going to act like I can't. There it is. Okay. So now it has both of these. And over here, you can see where this is darkened. So both the basic cut and the B and the K are highlighted. So when you attach it, those will now cut and do as one piece. And on the green square, when you actually cut it, if there is something on the screen like this that you don't want to go through, you can just ignore the color if it's like this, or you can hide it. And then it will not cut anything that is hidden. That's the other thing, is if you wanted to just sit and hide all of the letters, you could do that as well.
So I like to check my work once you get all the pieces done the way you want, then look to the side and see what the machine is going to do with those pieces and make any changes if you need to.
And sometimes if you, like, if I hit make it now, it will show, as Cheryl said, all of those letters on one, because I did not attach every one of them. And then this is her
One attached.
boards, and you have the one that I attached it to. But you, like we said, you can move these. If they are grouped, you cannot usually, because they stay how they are grouped. So if you want to be able to arrange them, you have to ungroup it first. Otherwise, it will stay in the shape that it is on in your design space. But you can change the size of your material. Say if you have a 6x6, which ends up with a lot of them, but or a 9x12. And you can sit, and even if you have different pages, I think this ended up all on one, but you can change, like if you want this one to a different mat and change it to a different color, you can change it from here. You can move the object and put it on the other page. So there's a lot of fiddling that you can do even once you hit this part of the making process. You do not actually have to have your maker or your machine connected to at this point. Mine is still sitting in my lap. So it cannot tell at this point if you have the machine hooked up or not. It's the next screen, which is the actual making screen, that allows you to choose the materials and the machine that you are going to use. I can plug it in and actually show that. Perhaps. It has been a while since I moved my machine, as is obvious. All right. And then you hit continue from this.
Oh, and there's, you can see that it's trying to connect to Bluetooth.
Yes, I do mine as Bluetooth.
But you watch that and make sure that it connects. Otherwise, it's not going to do what you ask it to do.
Mine is a little annoyed with me because I turned it on after I started trying to connect, which is not what you're supposed to do.
And this is why I suggest that you use your USB cable when you're when you're new at it, just so you don't have to troubleshoot it like that. But this little routine happens to me all the time too.
I just cut stuff on it today, so I know my machine and my design space works. So apparently it's being stubborn. So I am going to plug it in. As I had forgotten, I have the cord in there. But you can see over here what it is going to do. And it has the basic cut and the pin basic cut here. And one thing that is very important is if you have more than one page and different colors, make certain the one that you load is the one that is highlighted, where this is lighter than the one up here, because this is the one that it is going to cut first. And these are my preferred, my favorite. You can favorite certain your base materials. These are the ones I tend to use the most often. So you click on, this is usually made out of craft board. So you use craft board. The pressure, you have more, default, or less. I usually use default. Every machine has their own quirks. I have heard that some will do more pressure than others. It's something that you just get to play with and find out on your machine. There's not major differences, but little small things. One thing that I have to keep reminding myself is if you put in a new blade, do not use more pressure, and depending on how good your machine is, put it on less for a few times. Otherwise, you will cut down through to your mat, because the blade, when it is first put in, is very sharp. And if you are cutting cardstock or vinyl, you will cut all the way through on default or more. I have sometimes cut all the way through on less with a brand new blade. So it is something to just watch out for, to keep in mind on how your machine handles the pressure. And it will tell you what to load and what you use. And then once it senses that in there and you load the mat, then it will start cutting it out. And I could actually set it up to cut it, but it does take a bit to cut it. Do I need to show it actually cutting?
No.
Or
If you
no?
can, yeah.
Oh, you want me to? All right. I am actually going to use cardstock just to actually, this is one I wanted to cut, so I'll just use craft board. Sorry, getting my craft board out. So craft board on. So on the craft board, when you put it on your mat, you have it on, you want to get a roller or something that you can push down your paper or your craft board, you want to make certain you push it down. And I do not know where I put my roller. But you push it down and make certain it is firmly on. And then you load it into the board. Oh, it's not going to like me because I did not put my pin in. And if you do use the pin, make certain you take the pin back out when you are done and put the lid back on it. Otherwise, you will dry it out and waste a perfectly good pin. And then once it is loaded, you see how it changed once I put the mat in. It's now showing that it's loaded. Press the flashing go button. And let's see if I can ignore the mess, trying to show flashing button. Is the flashing showing up? I can't, yeah, there you go.
Mhm.
So that is showing that it is ready to start cutting. And there it goes. It's doing the pen first in the middle of the page. The blade is stuck. What do you mean the blade is stuck? Okay.
That only happens during a demo.
Yes, apparently.
Of course.
Of course. So what I did is I just removed my blade and put it. So resume. I don't know what its problem is because, oh, I see what happened. Apparently when you move your machine, other stuff falls in its place
Oh, no.
because it was no longer clear behind it.
Oh, yes. Another learning experience.
Uh-huh. Yeah, now it is, okay. I get to redo that because it just did not accept. Of course it does this when I'm showing other people.
Well, when you don't have to like have it on your lap and lift it up and things like that, then it's a lot more straightforward.
Yeah.
So these
Yeah.
little apps.
It has now decided that it is not doing anything anymore. It's not letting me finish the cut, but I don't know what its problem is. But
Cheryl,
it
do you have
drew,
something along that line?
it
Do
drew
I
the
what,
thing.
Marcia?
Do you have something along that line to show?
I'd have to fumble around
Okay.
with it. I think that probably this amount of information is enough for right now. And then if we wanted to do this again, then we could prepare some things that we might run into.
Do you want to stop the share screen?
Yes. And if need be at some time, I can show how you actually download the SVGs from like Dilly Dally or from Spellbound in order to
Yeah.
use the SVGs that are already made.
Okay.
But I
The
think
ones of
for-
you that are on here, would you want to have a demonstration of the cutting and all? Or not, or what?
We've put them to sleep.
Some of you are muted.
Yes, I would.
I think that one thing that would be good would be as a prerequisite for learning more about uploading and other files is
Doing
to
it.
get your machine set up and go through the provided file that's all ready to print, because that one goes pretty easily. And then we'll be ready to do the more complicated things.
Yeah, see, what I've done is completely different, I think, than what the two of you do. Because I get a flower from Google that has a white background or adjust it so it does or whatever. And make it a JPG file and upload that to the Cricut where you put them. And then when I get ready, when I have the flowers, maybe different sizes or a little bit different shape or whatever, and the leaves that go with it, I put that in the design space and change the sizes a little bit and so on, and then print and cut.
And I can show you one of mine. I'll be right back.
Here is actually one of a print and cut example as well. I got it printed on paper and then had it cut around it for a picture frame, and then I just put picture frame on
Yeah,
it.
that's pretty.
And the print and cut, I tried getting it out and I was too smart when I put it on. This is fabric that I printed on through the printer and then cut it with the Cricut. It cut around it and for a print and cut, and it cut the hangers here that are hanging off of the bar that I have up on the top. I waxed it down so it's stuck in several places. I'm afraid if I pull it up, it's gonna.
No, don't.
But you can see here where there's the tabs. They are looped around and glued onto the back to make a loop. But this is just the fabric that you can get to print on for your printer. And there's a rug down here that's done the same way. And I just frayed the edges to make it look like it had tassels. And the roughness on it, like a rug.
This is mine that looks, that I probably did similar to the method that Marcia just mentioned. And I found this leaf. And then when I loaded it into Design Space, then I flipped it so you can mirror image it. And so I could back them up. I backed the leaves up so they're the same on both sides. And then glued them on stems. And then another one, this one I just cut out of regular paper. Maybe I used cardstock for this one. And this design was actually available through Cricut. I did this one on my Silhouette, so it was available through the Silhouette Cameo 4 site. But it's great for doing potted plants because you want nice full plants, but you don't want to cut a billion leaves. So let the machine do it.
Okay, any questions?
How small a leaf will that cut?
What?
How small a leaf will that cut?
Smaller than this one that's about the size of my thumbnail. So you can get quite a lot of detail. You could probably go down to half scale easily.
Okay.
Just using your typing paper. I like using vellum, which you can get at the art supply store. It's a little firmer and a little more transparent, and that's fun to use. So you can experiment with different papers.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
let's see.
How much table space does it take
Yeah.
while you're using it?
About, you need at least the clearance of the size of your mat. So they have different sizes of mat. There's a 12 by 24. So if you're actually doing a project big enough for the 12 by 24 mat, you need that 24 inches front and back. But if you're doing like the 12 by 12, you need the 11 to 12 inches just in the back and front to make certain as it's coming in and out, it doesn't catch on anything. And so about the
So it's about 23 inches wide and then about 16 inches of space front to back for your machine and the part where the mat kicks out the back.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question about the when you buy the different shapes and everything, so you can keep cutting it.
Yes.
The shapes actually come with the design space.
No,
Those
what I
are-
mean is like your bed or whatever.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Once I can now cut that particular one now that it's in my design space and I have it, then I can cut it however many times.
And some
If
of the- excuse me, some of the designs are licensed so that you can then sell what you make, and some of them are not. And so you want to respect the artist, and if they say don't make this to sell to others, then please don't.
My reason why I asked, well, you know how at the beginning when you first set it up and register with them and you get whatever it is, a free period.
Oh,
I made lanterns, but when that free period was over, that disappeared.
that is with the Cricut Access.
Right,
So
but what I'm
if-
saying is you don't have whatever you use during that period, it's gone.
Yeah, that once that period is done, if you are using their things, then you have to pay to use it again. But usually it is a one-time payment for that specific shape or specific picture design. But like the things that I uploaded from Spellbound Miniatures, I can use that however many times. I actually do not have a Cricut Access membership, the paid membership. If I want to cut something or use something that is on Design Space already, that is Cricut, is through the Access, I pay for that separately. And then once I pay for it, I can use it however many times.
And Cheryl, what about the silhouette?
The silhouette is it's a little more forgiving, where you get a certain amount of free files each month, and well, one or two, and then you own those.
Okay.
And you can download them and change them and do things to them. So it's kind of nice if you are the type of person who can use the graphics software.
Mm-hmm.
But it's pretty easy to learn.
Okay, any other questions? You think this helped you any? In deciding what to buy or how to use and set up and all?
This was very helpful. Very helpful.
Oh, and Marcia wanted me to show other stuff that you
Yeah.
can cut. So I went down the rabbit hole with the Cricut Maker, and I just realized this is upside down, so sorry. But this is vinyl that I put on an ornament. It's actually supposed to be that way. I think this is one my mom helped with, and she hung it upside down, but that's okay. But the felt on the back, I actually put this design in Design Space and cut this out on my fabric mat because I made over 100 of them and I was not cutting those shapes out. So that is the felt that's cut from it. I just had it.
Cheryl, get yours ready too.
Actually, I don't have mine available. I made a vinyl sign for the shop that I
Well,
made.
your
for-
house and stuff, all the stuff you made on your Cricut.
Oh,
and
I
all.
did my windows.
Oh,
And then
yeah.
this
that-
is also, this is vinyl that I cut out on my Cricut and took out all those little pieces.
Which is called
Which,
weeding.
yes, that is weeding, and they will get stuck all over the place and it gets interesting, but it's still fun. I'm actually waiting to get fussed at later because I put a vinyl shape of Gus and Jacques from Cinderella running with the key to a mouse hole on my wall right outside my husband's office. He has not seen it yet, neither have the kids. So I snuck in and did that while he was in a meeting and his door was closed. So I'm waiting to see how long he doesn't, until he notices that. This is another one that I did. And one of the drawings that I showed, this is me showing, doing size testing for shirt. I did it as a draw instead of a cut so that I could get it done on paper to put it against the shirt to see if this is the size I need before I cut it out of the iron-on transfer, the heat transfer vinyl. And so it just draws out the design. And I did that with all the ones I was going to cut out so that, again, I don't use the more expensive material to test things and to play around with things, and instead use the cheaper paper. And that was just on normal cardstock from Walmart. So.
Okay, Cheryl.
Okay, unfortunately, I dismantled the lighting system in the structure that I made, but let me put something here. Okay, here's a pencil. So these windows I cut using the same method that Julia just showed us, so that they're cut out of vinyl and then just stuck on some acetate. So it gets pretty thin.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, yeah, this, oh, this is cute. The print and cut. I made pastries, and this is an example of a plate, and you can't really see the contour too much, but this one was a print and cut. So I did the design, sent it through my printer, and then it puts registration marks on it. And then I could send it through my Cricut, and it cut out the plates. And then I contoured them using my circle template.
So if you use the print and cut feature, you have to make certain there's plenty of light in your room where the Cricut is, Otherwise, the Cricut will not recognize where the registration marks, the big black box. It will not recognize it because there is not enough light for it to do so. Again, this is something I have heard a lot of people having problems with. Even though there is a light in the Cricut to find it, it is better. The more light there is, the better it is for the machine.
I don't have any other things to show, but I think this is kind of fun. A friend got a 3D printer.
Oh my gosh.
That is cute.
So,
I have seen those. Yes, those are just cool.
and so you can send your mat through. And then you can,
Those are so cute, Cheryl. So cute. So cute.
That is cute.
so that's the end of my show and tell.
And this is the book that we that is talked about on the files, and from Spellbound Miniatures, and she goes through details on how to use design space on miniatures and how to start figuring out how to make your own miniatures. So she gives a lot of good advice on that.
Okay, well, if there's no more questions or comments or whatever, we'll see about doing another one somewhere along the line of actually making some things, if you want to do that.
And I'm available for email questions, or go ahead and visit the websites and kind of eavesdrop on those. You can learn a lot.
And I'm also, I mean, I'm good for if you want, email me, or and I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I can do Zoom sessions, if one-on-one Zoom sessions, if someone has, you know, specific problems, specific questions or whatever, and you just want to set up and talk about it for a bit, I'm good with that. I don't mind helping. When I first got my machine, it was interesting because I did not have the book. Everything I learned was through YouTube, like Heather Tracy, and eventually Spellbound Miniatures. And I'm just the poke and prod method, as I
Trial and error.
yes, the trial and error, where you just sit there and try to do things. Sometimes with it, just like any machine, you have to sit and try and figure out why it's not working. It took us 2 weeks to figure out that my blade was tearing the material because it had a chip in it where my husband had dropped it 2 days, not even 2 days after I had gotten the machine. If your blade, that was the other thing to mention, if the material that you are cutting starts tearing instead of cutting, something that you've cut hundreds of times, or you know it works, it might be your blade. The blade does wear down after a while, and just like if you're cutting with a craft knife and it starts being hard to cut and doesn't cut right, it might be time to change your blade, or the very least clean it. Sometimes things will get stuck. Stuff will get stuck up in the housing. So there is the hole where the blade is in. And sometimes things will go up in there because your blade is coming in and out. So as your blade is going into things and coming out, sometimes it will pick up little bits and pieces. But as trying to clean it off, do not cut yourself on the blade. I had a piece of vinyl stuck on it when I first started bringing out my blade and started looking at it earlier, and had to clean it off to get that cleaned. My husband found these little cotton swabs, and they are just the right size to go up in the housing and clean out inside of it, to get the dust, to get little pieces of chipboard that likes to go in there,
Where
or
did
the
he find
vinyl.
Where did he get those?
Amazon, I believe.
Mm.
This was, he got so many that he bought these last February when I got the machine. So we have had them for over a year. So there, I've got 2 packs, and I've used like 4 of them out of 1. So you don't have to do it very often, but you just, you just have to clean it out, get it in there, get the stuff out. I haven't done it in a while, and there's little, I don't know if it's showing up, but there is little black stuff that is coming out of it as I'm sitting there cleaning it. It's real fine stuff, so I don't even think my camera's picking it up. But you just clean it out and put the blade back in. Some people say putting it in and out through a ball of foil. Some say it sharpens it. I think it's actually meant more for cleaning around it, to kind of clean it and such. But that is what a lot of people will do on it. So this was just something my husband found and liked doing. He was trying to figure out why my machine wasn't working. So that's what he figured out after it started tearing 3 days after I got the machine.
Mm.
Until he finally looked at the blade, and then he could tell that he had gotten a chip in it.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Julia and Cheryl. And I will post the link for this. Oh, I can stop recording.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.